Land. The Balkan Peninsula is a rugged, irregular, inverted triangle of land jutting southward from the European landmass into the eastern Mediterranean Sea. It is bounded on the west by the Adriatic Sea, on the east by the Black Sea, and southeast by the Aegean Sea. The northern land border of the Balkan Triangle is partially defined by mountain ranges. The Carpathian Mountains provide a limited boundary to parts of the north and northeast, while the Julian Alps delineate the peninsula's extreme northwestern corner. Roughly 300 miles, 480 kilometers, open land carved by the Danube, Sava, and Drava rivers divide these two chains in the northwest, while, in the northeast, the plains and tablelands of the Danube and Prut rivers separate the Carpathians from the Black Sea by some 125 miles, 200 kilometers. In the northwest, the Sava River often has been designated a boundary because it once constituted the Ottoman Empire's most stable border in the area. Likewise, the Drava River served the same function because it formed a border for Yugoslavia. Similarly, the Prut River has been used as a Balkan boundary in the northeast, since it delineated a border of Romania. Using the Drava and Prut rivers as part of the geographical boundaries, the Balkan Peninsula encompasses some 276,700 square miles, 716,650 square kilometers, of territory. Close to 70% of the Balkans is covered by mountains. The name Balkan derives from a colloquial Turkish word for a forested mountain. Now the term also is the name of a string of mountains just south of the Danube River in today's Bulgaria, known in classical times as the Hamos, that stretches from the Black Sea for half the east-west width of the peninsula. To their south stretch a densely grouped series of mountain ranges, the Rila, with the highest peak in the Balkans, 9,592 feet, 2,926 meters, the Rhodope, the Pindos, and the Taygetus, to the tip of the peninsula in the Greek Peloponnese. The peninsula's west is dominated by the ruggedly limestone Dinaric and Albanian Alps, which run parallel to the Adriatic coastline but spread extensively inland. The mountains furnish an assortment of metal ores and minerals, especially in the central and northern regions. Iron, zinc, chrome, lead, antimony, copper, nickel, gold, and silver ores are present, as well as such minerals as bauxite, lignite, and chromite. The oil deposits of the Carpathian foothills in the peninsula's extreme north are the largest in continental Europe. Except for the mostly narrow coastal plains, most of the peninsula's lowlands are river valleys. The Danube's is the largest, cutting a wide swath between the Dinaric Alps and the Carpathian Mountains, narrowing at the so-called Iron Gates east of Belgrade, where the river carves a gorge separating the Balkan and Carpathian Mountains, before again widening into a broad plain extending to the Black Sea. Others, such as the Drava, Sava, Morava, and Iskar river systems, important branches of the Danube watershed, the Aliakmon, Vardar, Struma, Mesta, and Maritsa river valleys, which run to the Aegean Sea, and the Neretva, Drin, Shkumban, and Vijos river valleys, which flow to the Adriatic, provide the interior with both a modicum of arable land and the primary natural lines of overland communication. Climatically, the Balkan Peninsula is not a unit. It enjoys a Mediterranean climate along most of its seacoasts and a continental one throughout its interior. Vegetation and land use vary with the natures of the dual climate. Along the Adriatic, Mediterranean, and Aegean coasts, the land mostly is rocky and denuded, supporting such crops as olives, grapes, figs, lemons, and oranges, and the herding of sheep and goats. In the interior, most of the mountains are forested, cereal crops predominate in the river valleys and lowlands, vineyards are found in some areas of the Danubian plain, in the Maritsa River Valley, and along the upper Sava, and livestock breeding mostly involves pigs and cows, although sheep and goats are fed on highland pastures. The line separating the two climate zones lies close to the coastline in most of the peninsula, since the mountains, which form the climatic border, push close to the seas almost everywhere. Regarding political geography, the Balkan Peninsula historically is of strategic significance. Its location in the eastern Mediterranean makes it a crossroads of three continents: Europe, Asia, and Africa, and, since earliest recorded times, its accessibility by both sea and land opens it to political, military, and cultural incursions and contentions from all directions. In the past, 6 foreign empires, the Persian, Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman, Habsburg-Austrian, and Russian, sought to possess, whole or in part, the benefits offered by the peninsula's strategic location and natural resources with varying degrees of success. Interspersed among the foreign imperial efforts were those of indigenous Balkan states. Because of the peninsula's rugged geography and harsh climate, political life in the Balkans historically has been far from stable. Small states, beginning with the classical Greek city-states, have been the rule because of the mountainous topography, which tended to separate human habitation among isolated river valleys and highland plateaus, and resulted in centuries of fierce competition among the states for control of the geographically restricted available natural resources. The fact that Balkan states nearly always proved vulnerable to outside empires competing for sway in the region meant that those resources rarely benefited the inhabitants. Minerals and ores were either extracted directly by the foreigners or provided to them by regional states at their mercy. When Balkan states managed to survive for any length of time, they did so mostly in the peninsula's interior, where the geographic division between coast and mountains had economic consequences. Often the coast, with its important seaports, was controlled by foreign states that frequently were at odds with those in the interior, thus effectively barring the latter from secure outlets to the seas. For this reason, the economies of Balkan states primarily remained agricultural long into the 20th century. Today the Balkan Peninsula is home to 9 states as well as a small portion of a 10th, Turkey. Albania lies in the west, along the Adriatic Sea, and encompasses 11,097 square miles, 28,489 square kilometers, of territory divided into 2 zones, the North and Central Coastal Plains and the much more extensive interior and South Coastal Highlands, Albanian Alps, which in places reach heights of over 6,550 feet, 2,000 meters. Most river systems run from the highlands to the sea, chief among them are the Drin, Shkumbin, and Vijos. Cereal production and some Mediterranean-type agriculture take place on the coastal plains, while forests and livestock pasturing predominate in the highlands. Chromium and copper represent the most important mineral resources. The capital for the state's population of 3.3 million people is Tirana. Bosnia-Herzegovina, with its capital at Sarajevo, was home, before the war of 1992 to 1995, to an ethnically and religiously mixed population of 4.6 million people inhabiting 19,776 square miles, 51,233 square kilometers, in the peninsula's northwest. The state lies almost completely within the folds of the Dinaric Alps, some peaks of which are over 6,550 feet, 2,000 meters, high. Most of the sparsely available arable land lies in the valleys of the Neretva, Bosna, and Dina rivers and in scattered small mountain basins and plateaus. Much of the terrain is covered by forest, making timber products economically important. Livestock is herded in upland pastures. Lignite, iron, and manganese are mined in Bosnia, while bauxite and lignite are mined in Herzegovina. In former times, eastern Bosnia was an important gold and silver mining region. Bulgaria, encompassing 42,855 square miles, 110,994 square kilometers, controls nearly half of the Eastern Balkans and is home to 8.8 million people. Geographically, it is fairly well defined. Most of the northern border is determined by the Danube River, but the extreme northeastern portion that crosses the Dobrujan Plain is undefined. The Black Sea coast serves in the east, the southern slopes of the Rhodope Mountains partially define the southern frontier, but the line is arbitrary on the Thracian Plain in the southeast, and the western slopes of the Struma River Valley, along with the northern bend in the Balkan Mountains, roughly form the western border. Within these boundaries lie the Balkan, Rila, and Rhodope mountain ranges and an extensive network of river systems, which generally flow north into the Danube or south to the Aegean. The plain and tablelands of Thrace and the Danube are excellent for cereal and fruit cultivation. A uniquely important crop is roses, grown in one particular mountain valley, the attar of which is a crucial and expensive ingredient in many top-of-the-line perfumes. Pigs, sheep, cows, and goats commonly are herded. Coal, both black and brown, iron, copper, zinc, and lead are important mineral resources. The capital city of Sofia has been an urban settlement since pre-Roman times. Croatia is populated by 4.7 million people residing on 21,824 square miles, 56,538 square kilometers, of territory in the northwest of the peninsula. Its crescent-shaped physical configuration consists of three regions. Croatia proper, with the state's capital of Zagreb, serves as the central core, from which stretch the two horns, composed of Slavonia, the northern lowlands lying between the Sava and Drava rivers, and Dalmatia in the south, which comprises the Adriatic coastline and the adjoining Dinaric highlands. Peaks in the mountains exceed elevations of 4,950 feet, 1,500 meters, in a few areas. The Sava and Drava are the primary river systems. Much of the land is forested in Croatia proper and in the Dalmatian highlands. Livestock is herded on upland pastures while grains are sown in depressions and valleys. Mediterranean-type cultivation and scrub evergreens proliferate along the Dalmatian coast. In the lowlands of Slavonia, cereal and fruit crops predominate. Mineral resources are limited, consisting of relatively small pockets of iron, natural gas, oil, and bauxite. Greece, including its Aegean island holdings in Crete, encompasses 50,962 square miles, 131,990 square kilometers, and 10 million people. Its capital at Athens is built around the remains of the famous ancient Acropolis. Mountains cover 80% of the triangular-shaped mainland, which forms the southern tip of the Balkan Peninsula, making less than a third of the land suitable for cultivation. The Pindos Mountains, whose highest peak Mount Parnassos rises to 8,059 feet, 2,457 meters, runs the north-south length of the central and southeastern regions, breaking at the Gulf of Corinth, only to be continued in the Peloponnese by the Taygetus Range. The mountainous interior is linked to the surrounding seas through deep valleys cut by the Aliakmon and Achilles river systems. Most cultivation is restricted to the narrow coastlines, where typical Mediterranean-type crops, including citrus fruits, are produced. Cereal crops are grown in scattered upland plateaus, the Thessalian plain, and in the northern Macedonian Thracian coastal plain, which is the most extensive lowland in the state. In the mountains, Mediterranean-type scrub and pasture predominate. Although a variety of mineral ores are present, bauxite and magnesite, especially, along with deposits of iron, copper, lead, zinc, and silver, they exist in such small amounts that they are of little economic benefit. Given the ruggedness of the terrain, the great extent of irregular coastline, and the paucity of natural resources, it is little wonder that the Greek economy historically has depended on maritime trade rather than on agriculture and manufacturing. Macedonia, situated in the center of the peninsula, today covers 9,778 square miles, 25,333 square kilometers, of territory and boasts a population of 2.2 million people, governed from the capital at Skopje. It is a mountainous region where the southern Dinaric and eastern Albanian Alps meet the northern projections of the Pindos Mountains. While a few peaks in the western, Albanian Alp range can top 6,600 feet, 2,000 meters, in elevation, elsewhere summits rarely exceed 4,950 feet, 1,500 meters. The Vardar River system, which bisects the state from north to south, provides it with its principal lowlands. On these are grown cereals, tobacco, cotton, and some fruits as well as wine-producing vines. Close to half of the total territory is heavily forested, but there is some upland pasture for sheep and goats, along with localized cultivation in valleys and depressions. Mineral resources include small deposits of zinc, lead, iron, chrome, and manganese. In times past, gold was mined in the eastern regions. Romania, with a territory in the peninsula's northeast covering 91,699 square miles, 237,499 square kilometers, and containing 23.1 million inhabitants, is the largest Balkan state. It is divided topographically into two basic arable zones, the plains and tablelands of the Danube and Prut rivers in the south and east and the rolling, forested Transylvanian plateau, by the boomerang shape and territorially extensive Carpathian Mountains. Geographically, and for the most part historically, Transylvania and its neighboring regions, situated north and west of the Carpathians, lie outside of the Balkan Peninsula. The southern arm of the Carpathians, often called the Transylvanian Alps, is higher and more precipitous than the eastern, with some peaks reaching elevations of over 6,500 feet, 2,000 meters. All of the river systems draining the southern Wallachian Plain and eastern Moldavian tableland flow from the Carpathians to the Danube, while those of the Transylvanian Plateau mostly run westward, emptying into the Tisza River on the Pannonian Plain of Hungary. The Carpathians and the Transylvanian highlands are thickly forested, providing pasture land for sheep and goats and some cultivation in depressions and valleys. The extensive Wallachian and Moldavian lowlands, as well as the western edge of Transylvania, are heavily cultivated, with grains, flax, hemp, tobacco, and grape-producing vines among the important crops. Romania possesses the richest and most diverse mineral resources in the Balkans. Europe's largest continental oil fields lie in the foothills of the southern Carpathians, and Transylvania is rich in natural gas. Large deposits of salt, lignite, black and brown coal, copper, and iron, supplemented by zinc, manganese, silver, gold, and mercury, are mined in the Carpathians and in the Transylvanian Plateau. Bucharest, the capital, sits on the Wallachian Plain. Slovenia, with a territory of 7,834 square miles, 20,296 square kilometers, and a population of 1.9 million people, edges out Macedonia as the smallest state in the peninsula. Governed from the capital at Ljubljana, it lies in the extreme northwest within the terminal ranges of the Julian Alps, among which the highest peak reaches 9,400 feet, 2,863 meters. The mountains lend the state a truly alpine appearance reminiscent of Switzerland. Most of the land not covered by mountains consists of highly forested foothills and depressions, cut through by the upper courses of the Sava and Drava rivers. The largest area of lowland is the Drava Basin in the east, where grains and some fruits and vines are grown. Elsewhere, cultivation is undertaken in the numerous depressions and valleys. Livestock pasturing and lumbering are widespread. Mineral resources include modest deposits of oil and natural gas, brown coal, lignite, zinc, lead, and mercury. Yugoslavia, a federation today uniting the republics of Serbia and Montenegro that together comprise 39,507 square miles, 102,350 square kilometers, of territory and 10.7 million people, occupies the north-central regions of the peninsula. Its capital at Belgrade is situated strategically at the confluence of the Danube and Sava rivers. The Dinaric Alps dominate the landscape in the south and southwest of the state, and Montenegro lies almost completely within their folds. Similar to the situation of Bosnia-Herzegovina, the state is landlocked, possessing only a short length of Adriatic coastline in Montenegro, although the Morava River, which originates in the extreme south, close to Macedonia, provides a relatively direct access route linking the interior to the Aegean Sea by way of the Vardar River Valley. Serbia, much the larger of the two state partners, is only partially defined by geographic features. These exist only for its southern half. The Dinaric Ranges mark out the boundaries to the south and west, while the northern bend of the Balkan Mountains and the Danube River delineate the east. The northern half of Serbia's borders is mostly drawn over lowlands, Vojvodina and Srem, forming part of the Pannonian Plain and generally bisects river lines, making it geographically arbitrary. South of Belgrade the land rises into somewhat forested hill country, known as Šumadija, which is drained by the extensive Morava river system. The full range of continental crops are cultivated on the Pannonian lowlands and in the valleys of Šumadija. The more densely forested mountain regions offer pasturing and some grain cultivation. In areas of mountainous and highly barren Montenegro, Mediterranean-type cultivation takes place. In terms of mineral resources, Montenegro boasts only bauxite as significant, while Serbia is endowed with numerous deposits of brown coal, lead, and zinc, along with lesser amounts of black coal and copper.